CloseUp Foundation, in association with C-SPAN, takes you Close Up. This program is produced by the CloseUp Foundation and funded in part by grants from the DuPont Company and from R.J. Reynolds Industries, Incorporated.
Hello, I'm Chuck Tampio of the CloseUp Foundation. Welcome to today's program. Our topic is advocacy for the aging. Our guest for this program is Ms. Lydia Bragger, chairperson for the National Gray Panthers Media Watch. She is the founder of the New York Gray Panthers and has served on a number of White House committees dealing with aging issues. Ms. Bragger, welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Discussing this topic with her will be participants on the Close-Up program for older Americans. This program offers senior citizens a first-hand look at government in Washington and is being conducted by the Close-Up Foundation in conjunction with the American Association of Retired Persons. Now, I know that a number of guests in our studio today have questions of their own, but let me start. The term ageism is a relatively new term in our society, coined about a decade ago, I suppose, and it is one of the primary issues that is of concern to the Gray Panthers. How pervasive a problem do you think it is in American society?
It's very pervasive, and it's like we had racism, we had sexism, and now we have ageism, and they're all just as devastating to people. Ageism is discrimination based on chronological age. That means that because you're a certain age, you can't do things, you can't do certain things. And this is happening all the time. It's happening in employment, it's happening in our society, in every area that older people, and it affects younger people too. So there's a lot of it going on.
And is that is the primary purpose of Gray Panthers, to combat ageism and all of its...
That was their primary interest when they started, because they felt that that was basic to everything else. If you are judged because of your age, not because of your ability, but because of how old you are, then that affects every other area of your life. And so that's why they thought that this was the most important area to focus in on.
Okay, well, we'll focus in on a number of issues today relating to that one. But let's start now with our questioners. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make the comment first that I can...
Can you give us your name and your community, please?
Yes. I'm Sister Agnes Thiel, a Dominican sister from Grand Rapids, Michigan. I have been working with the aged for some time. I like to consider ourselves a new generation. I like to say that we are the young old of the third generation, the third age, which gives us a very positive aspect on life. And because we are a new generation here, we are perfectly free to do so many things because nobody has been before us. We are pioneers, as it were, and I think that you probably consider us pioneers also in that way. I like to see us doing is becoming more knowledgeable about the government, and that's why we are here today. I like to see us know something about it and to be not only first hand seeing it now, but to ask questions and to vote. And I do think that we are voting because of knowledge. And I wonder if you are finding it that way too, that seniors are voting more because they understand better what is happening to our government.
I think that's a very good reason to vote more. I don't know, and I agree with you that this is a new generation of older people. It's the first generation that have stood up and are fighting for their rights and are really making themselves known and felt. And I think that to know more about what's happening in the government is certainly the inspiration to vote, because you get concerned about things that will bother you when you know more about it. So more people are voting. But we have a good voting record. The older people have the best voting record of any age group, and so we are voting.
I like like to tell people that, when we retire, maybe at age 65, we have 25 or 30 years of life ahead of us, and we better do something with it. I always tell people I expect to live to be 100, and consequently, I've got a lot of living to do, and I want to do it knowing what I am doing and being in command of what I am doing.
That's true.
Beside the indicator of voting, how about other areas of political participation for older people? Do you think that they have fully explored their potential for political involvement?
I don't know. I think a lot of people, older people, feel when they retire, they feel that they have worked hard, and they have, and they're entitled to rest and not do anything. So a lot of people that could be doing something are not. I know that the Grey Panthers that started in 1970, at that time with Maggie Kuhn, realized that that older people were becoming more vocal, and there was a need then to establish some organization that would fill the needs that they had for participation in government and in politics. So that's why the Grey Panthers was started, because we have a lot of good organizations too, but we're all doing different things. So
are the politicians very willing to listen to what you have to say?
The politicians are listening to older people now because they know that we're growing fast. The older population is growing very fast, and they're willing now to listen because they know we're voting, and sure, they'll listen.
Okay, let's go to our next question. Yes, sir.
I'm Thron Riggs from Sedona, Arizona, and I agree with the concerns that the aged people have about Social Security, their rights, etc. But one position that I've held for some time, and one that's been reinforced with this experience this week, is that us older people are more concerned about the welfare of our country and the fact that we don't have a balanced budget, the fact that we're going in debt, and while we probably won't live here to the day that we see the disastrous results if we don't turn this thing around, I think we're more active and more concerned about that, the heritage we leave for our children and our grandchildren. And I wonder if you experience the same thing in your travels in Grey Panthers.
I certainly have, because Grey Panthers are people of all ages. We're not just older people, and that's what makes us a little different than other organizations that include older people. But we have young people, middle-aged people, and people of all ages, and we're all concerned about what happens to people. That's our main concern, and I find that with all the Grey Panthers.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Do we have a question in that end of the room? Okay, while they're getting the mic to the person, I'll start. One of the things that you do for Grey Panthers is serve as a watchdog on the media. What are you looking for in the media? Are you looking at commercials or news programs?
Everything. All branches of the media, all mediums, the radio, television, and the press. And we started this in 1973, so we've been doing it for a long time. It's been a long, slow process. We first started because we got letters from people all over telling about the way they resented the stereotyping of older people in the media. And it was bothering a lot of people, and they were feeling disturbed and discouraged. Older people were looking at this and thinking that's the way I'm supposed to be, and they became immobilized many times. Younger people were looking at that, seeing older people in these negative ways, and said this is the way old people are. It affected their behavior toward old people, and middle-aged people were looking at it and they're saying, well, I'm scared to death of getting old. This is the way I'm going to be. So we felt it was very important to do something about the image that was being portrayed. So we worked very hard at that. We had a task force in New York. 7 people got together twice a month, read the letters that we got, the complaints, and then we processed them, and those that we got a lot of letters about, we approached the network people to see if we could make some changes with them. So a lot of changes have been, I could go on and on, but I know I'm not supposed to.
Have you had any success stories?
Oh, it's been wonderful. As you see, older people now, there are more older people in the media playing the parts of their own age. There was a time when young actresses were made up to look like older people because they thought that old people couldn't think and they couldn't remember and they couldn't walk and they couldn't, you know, you get all kinds of things. When I tell somebody how old I am, sometimes they say, "Ma, you're alert." And that, you know, I'm not supposed to be alert, you know, just because I'm this age. I'm supposed to be whatever. But we need to educate society to know that we are still in there, we're still in there fighting. We're moving and we're doing things, and we're a big part of what's going on.
Okay, let's go to our next question. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Doris Reeves, and I live at Hawthorne at Leesburg, which is in Lake County, Florida. Maggie Kuhn has visited us, and I know she doesn't really approve of our living just with senior citizens. But we think there's something to be said for that state of affairs. I want to ask a little bit more about CloseUp. Since Florida is a state of aging people, I need to understand about the sponsorship of CloseUp, why Florida does not have a sponsorship or a week of its own. We're not included in this program as a state.
Okay, I'll answer that very briefly. The reason that Florida is not involved as actively as it can be and will be in CloseUp is simply because we understand that there are simply larger numbers there than we're going to be able to handle unless we do it exactly right with a lot of planning and forethought. So we have every intention of making this program fully available in Florida, and realize that it may be one of the largest programs we conduct, but we just want to work with officials there to make sure it's well planned so that we can get as many participants as possible from Florida in a kind of an orderly fashion. So no, we're looking forward to working with the people from Florida as we do from the people all over the country. Okay, let's go to our next question.
I'm George Letts from Mountain Home, Arkansas, and I have a question for Mrs. Bragger. We in Arkansas are second in the nation insofar as percentage of old people. Florida's first, Arkansas is second, Rhode Island is third, I believe. We have 71% of people in Mountain Home that are 65 and over. Our problem is how to get people motivated and interested to the extent that they will participate. Have you got any answers insofar as that is concerned?
Yes. Well, of course, because I'm involved with Gray Panthers, I find that issues, and we find that if there's something, some concern that a person in an area has, and they've been affected by that, they're the logical ones to really start something and find other people that have had that problem too. And but with the Gray Panthers, they offer opportunities for people to become involved in things that are usually participated in. I know the Gray Panthers better than any other organization, and I'm sure there are other organizations too. Do you have an organization in your area? Any organization for older people? Or?
I'm with AARP,
yes.
First Vice President and Legislative Chairman, and so I feel that we have an organization.
Yes.
We have participation insofar as attending meetings are concerned. A lot of times we will have 200 attend, and Mountain Home is relatively small insofar as population is concerned, but again, we can't get the people to take a hold and take offices.
You need action, you see. That's, you know, you have, I know with the Gray Panthers, we don't count numbers, we count action. And we'd rather have 5 people attending that will really do something and become active than to have 500 that just come and go away. But have you tried different issues to interest people in different issues and find one issue that people may be able to rally around? I think that you need to do a lot of reading, a lot of research, and to find out things that would be of interest to people. Something in your area probably that's bothering people. Maybe the environment, maybe water, maybe maybe some other problem that you're having in that area. And get people involved in trying to do something about it. Not sit and complain, because I tell people when they complain about something, I say, what are you doing about it? And if they say nothing, I say, well, you deserve it if you don't do anything about it. So find something that's going on there that is bothering people and get them, rally them around
Well,
it.
we've been concerned with the containment of hospital costs and medical costs and like
Yeah,
that.
sure.
They're very much interested.
Sure.
They agree with us, but again, we have difficulty in getting them to participate and take a hold.
Well, tell them they're a part of it, and it's going to affect them if they don't do something about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think that that has always been true in American political life. I think even de Tocqueville talked about that Americans generally don't get involved in politics for its own sake or just to be involved in the process. They get involved when they care deeply about an issue that affects their own lives. And I think that the key to involvement is finding those issues and then attracting them in a forthright manner.
I agree.
Okay, let's go to our next question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Fran Sheridan. I've spent the greater part of my life in Detroit, Michigan. Lydia, would you clarify something for me? The Panthers I read about, they police crime areas in big cities. Is that part of your organization?
No. No, I don't know. We're not a service organization, we're an action organization. Usually, if there's a problem, we'll go to the top to find out what's causing the problem, rather than trying to address that problem. No, we're not doing that, but I don't know, there is an organization, I've read about that, but it's not Great Panthers.
Are you thinking of Neighborhood Watch or something like that?
No, it's called the Panthers, and I know they have not been received well. I mean, in all big cities, Detroit for one.
Now, I might tell you that all the Great Panther networks, we call them networks all over the country, there's 168 right now. They are autonomous, and they take up an issue that interests and involves them in that area. So it's very possible that there are some Great Panthers doing that. Yeah.
That made me think. Thank you.
How is Great Panthers funded?
Any way we can get it, I tell you. The churches have been very good because Maggie Kuhn came out of a church background, and they've been very good. Not enough, but we get funding from different foundations too. Have begun to fund us now, and
Government?
Government only once. We had a conference in New York, and the AOA funded that.
AOA is the Administration on Aging.
Yes, right. And but other than that, it's some of the foundations now. And we're writing grants all the time, and we have a funding director.
Members pay dues?
Yes, there are dues.
Okay. Let's go to our next question.
My name is Keith Martin. I'm from Grass Valley, California. I have perhaps an unusual concern, and that is the image that we present to younger people, our middle-aged people, our young people, and our very young people. I'm concerned that my grandchildren don't look upon me as a typical old man. And perhaps I'm way off the beam on that. I'd like to know what you think.
What did he say now? What do you want me to say?
True or false? I guess the question is what kind of images young people have of older people that sometimes vary with their own relatives, that they regard their own relatives in one way, and they say, well, that's not a typical behavior.
I believe that. I think young people who have been exposed to older people, we don't have the extended families the way we used to now, so that young people, that's why the media image is so important. But young people, I find, that have had grandparents living in the home are more mature, they're wonderful young people, and they know about older people. Sometimes there are sick old people in the home, but they have a compassion, usually, that a young person that isn't exposed to any of that doesn't have. I think that it's wonderful to know your grandparents and find them attractive and somebody that you want to be with and somebody that you love. And it's great when we can project that image. I think that we're doing society a great favor when we can do that. So,
thank you.
I'm sure you do too.
Okay, if we can get the microphone back over to Sister in that corner of the room, we'll take her next question. Okay, go ahead.
Sister Agnes again. I like to talk about the image of the older American, because at the White House conference, that's one of the things that we talked about, is to change the image of the older American. And I think you were talking about, people always thought of the older people as being among the frail elderly, where I like to say that we are the young old of America, and they are, as I say, a new generation. I'd like to talk about our relationship with our legislators. You seem to have, I thought I heard you say that they're not always looking at us so willingly, but I have found that in Michigan that we have a tremendously interesting relationship with our legislators. We do have a Senior Power Day in May, in which we do have 7,000 seniors come to Lansing. Of course, I realize this is a lot of show for numbers, and they don't all know what it's about, but we do have a platform that we ask our legislators to follow. And one of our platforms last year was that of Elder Aid, in which we ask our seniors, our legislators, to do work to help the people in their homes, to give us more service in home-delivered meals and alternate care and this kind of thing. And they did give us $1.4 billion extra for that. We also work a great deal with our legislators in meeting with them at regular basis, both our Michigan legislators and our Congress here. Are you finding that more and more legislators are willing to meet with older people if the young old request a meeting and know what they're talking about?
Oh, I do. And I don't want to be facetious, but before election is a wonderful time to contact them. But they are. If you approach them, they're more able now or willing to meet with you. You have to do it in a certain way, and sometimes I feel I'm devious, but in order to get what I want, you know, you have to be very soft-spoken. You have to be disarming. I guess I am sometimes with media people. They don't expect me to come out with some of the things I come out afterwards. But you have to approach your legislators, and you'll find them, most of them, the ones that want to get reelected, very willing to meet with you and talk with you. But I think the thing to do, and you know this, I'm sure, when you go to them, be sure that you've done your homework beforehand so that you know what you're talking about, and find the issue that they are interested in and that they're working in, and they will listen. You listen to them because they'll talk forever, but listen to them, and they like you for that. But they are available now.
Wouldn't that same theory hold, though, for an answer to this gentleman's question when he said, how do you attract other people to get interested? If you can only give them, and you stated it, a topic they're interested in. I always like to use DRGs, and at first, you know, people don't know what you're saying, DRGs, and then you begin to tell them what a DRG is, and they have been affected by it. You know, people used to stay in the hospital 10 days, and now you only stay 6 days, and it's affecting your pocketbook and this kind of thing. I find that people immediately pick up their ears and begin to listen and say, how can we get involved?
That's right.
Are you finding that kind of thing too?
Surely. That's right.
Is there another topic that you believe would bring people up to this listening question?
Well, I think one of the things that concern me a lot is the health situation and nursing homes that are so bad in New York. It's just really awful. There are some good ones, but there are some that are so bad that they need to have people fighting to try to change the conditions there.
Do the Grey Panthers do much on CBC, Citizens for Better Care, and trying to get our citizens, our older people, involved in nursing homes?
Well, we came out with a book about 5 years ago that was funded called Nursing Home Reforms, and there were 2 people that wrote that book, 2 trained nurses, and they told how people could get involved in nursing home. They set up patients of the home or residents of the home as a board, and they meet every once in a while, maybe every week or every 2 weeks, however often they want to. And then there's a person on the outside that's a liaison, and they bring their problems to them. And these things, so that the board of older people, of residents, have something to say about the way that nursing home is run. So this was one of the things that they advocated that people could do to be involved in that way.
Do you also get them involved in such issues as insurance HMOs and that kind of thing? Is that a way of getting seniors involved and keeping down the cost care?
Well, we would like to see a health system that includes everybody, a national health delivery service.
You go for that?
We go for that. And so that would take care of all of those things.
Okay, there's a gentleman, I think, behind you with a question. Thank you, sister.
Yes, I'm Ed Fitzgerald from Little Rock, Arkansas. And as I sat here wondering about the question of that man on my left, what images do we project to other people? I think we should turn that mirror around. What image do we have of ourselves? Are we strictly service people? Do we become involved? This particular week so far has really been an eye-opener for me, of finding out how things operate, how we can accomplish some things, and I think if we take a look at ourselves, of what we're capable of doing, that we'll find that we have many things that we can do, and I imagine that's what the Gray Panthers are attempting to do.
That's first. We have to have a good image of ourselves before we can project a good image. But this is the problem. This is one of the problems. So many people have bought that idea, have been brainwashed into thinking when you get a certain age, life is over. You can't do anything. And you start to think, I'm this age, now I can't do this because I'm supposed to feel this way. And we need to make people realize that they have potential as long as they live. You don't, life doesn't end until you die. You can always do something. Even people who are immobilized, who are in bed, there's always something that you can do to be involved. So that we need to raise the consciousness of older people themselves. And you're right, you know, and there's always something that you can do. Life doesn't pass you by until you let it.
Thank you. I'd like to remind our viewing audience that you're watching a program on advocacy for the aging. The audience is a group of senior citizens in Washington with the CloseUp Foundation program. Our guest is Lydia Brager, who heads up the Media Watch activities for the Gray Panthers. Let's go back to media for a second and talk about images, because earlier you were saying that our images of ourselves are often influenced greatly by the images of elderly or people that we see like us on television. Perhaps no television show in recent times has received as much pre-program publicity as this new program on NBC called Golden Girls. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it. It's some very familiar personalities, women who have been on TV for a long time, who are portrayed as living together and coping with the problems of older adulthood. My question is, in a program of this type, is it good to see people able to laugh at themselves and poke fun at themselves in a humorous situation, or do you think that it could be degrading in some ways?
I would love to know how you felt about it, but first I will say that I don't object to the three women. My problem, or not my problem, but the thing I would object to, the mother is supposed to have had a brain operation, which made it impossible for her to discern what she was saying and how she was addressing people. This has made the brunt of a joke. That's a deformity or whatever that she has that's being laughed at, being made the brunt of a joke. And that's the thing that I would object to. Because there's no reason for that mother to be there except for laughs.
Anybody else have a comment on that, a reaction to that particular program that you'd like to bring up? Anybody want to comment on that? Sister Agnes, did you have your hand in the air? There.
I don't know.
We'll have to get you the microphone. Just take a minute there to get you the microphone. If any of you others have a comment that you'd like to make.
I'm sorry, I don't know the Golden Girls, but I do know that this whole idea of laughing at older people, what I object to is when they categorize all older people as being among the frail elderly and talk about them as being deaf or with a cane or whatever, and they do not look at the young old. I keep asking people, and who are you talking about? So that the question has to be thrown back to them, and they immediately know then that, you know, we're not all among the frail elderly, that there are a lot of other people out there, the young, old. But I try to make people understand that there is a great deal of positive aging, and they ought to look forward to the third age as a real good age, one that they can truly live in.
Well, one of the images of frailty about older people is, of course, portrayed also in commercials and advertisements on television, that you frequently see older people in need of some sort of medical device or pill of some sort. How do you feel about the images of the elderly portrayed on commercials?
Well, there was a time, like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, when all old people were experts on all the pain and ache remedies. We knew all about laxatives and dentures and denture creams and things for arthritis. They were shown, all old people, they just showed doing those on commercials. Now we've changed, and even Geritol, you know, we used to be called the Geritol generation. And we rose up and really said something about that, because we said young people use Geritol too. So now you see young people and old people using it too. But what happened then, it made old age, and illness synonymous. When you saw just old people using all these things that had to do with health. It's changed now. We see some good commercials. We see the Kodak commercial, which is lovely, I think. I don't know how many of you have seen that, but it shows couples of all ages and in very nice situations. There are some commercials that are still bad, but there are some good ones now. And after all these years of complaining, I've got to the place where I want to zoom in on the positive things, so that I'm addressing more of the positive things now than I am the negative. We have Grey Panther media watchers in Boston, on the West Coast. The West Coast are the most active as far as Grey Panthers are concerned. So we have them out there, and they're all doing these, they're on top of all these stereotypes. Now, from the New York office, I'm doing positive things.
Okay, I believe we have a comment from a member of the audience. Yes,
yes, I just wanted to make a comment. I'm Ruby Fitzgerald from Little Rock, Arkansas, and I just want to say that actually this time of life is a great time of life for me and my husband, that with our benefits that we have, including Social Security, we're able to participate in seminars like this, and it's a real learning experience for us.
I think one of the studies recently that about aging showed that rather than living lives of isolation, sitting alone on a porch or in a rocking chair, they showed that the majority of elderly in America had been in touch with their families within the last 24 hours, had spoken to a son or daughter, and were much more involved in the affairs of life than often the popular image would lend us to think about.
Well, that's the present generation of older people, but we have to keep remembering that there's a lot of older people out there that are lonely and are alone and that don't have anybody. So we sometimes forget those. We sort of think of the positive things and all of the people that are getting along well and all the people that are affluent older people. Because I'm working with ad agencies now, and they wouldn't be interested in older people if they didn't think we had money to spend. So this is what I have to keep projecting. I don't project to them that there are a lot of older people out there that need assistance. But when I speak to other groups that I know will be understanding of that, then I have to say, because the government loves to hear that everybody old is affluent. Then when programs come up that they need assistance, they say, well, they don't need it. You know, they've all got a lot of money, but that's not so.
All right, let's go to the next question. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I'm Elston Leonard from Little Rock, Arkansas, and I wanted to add a positive statement about the younger old. I'm 87. I've been retired almost 20 years. I take part in community affairs. I hunt and fish, turkey and deer and squirrel. I work very closely with some nonprofit organizations, and I feel like at my age, I've still got some time to contribute to my community.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, there's a question right next to this gentleman here. You got the microphone there? Oh, okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm Elmer Palmatier from Rhode Island. I don't want to give the idea that we're all affluent, but I would like to say that various episodes of my life have been pleasant and attractive, but this is one of the best. And I have romance, I have adventure, and I have enough money to sort of keep me going. And I'm sure that a lot of my compatriots need a lot more attention than I do, but I wish it for them.
Great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to hear those kinds of comments.
Right.
But you know, talking about the money that older people have, one of the things that I find very distressing is to read in the paper about some new consumer scheme or fraud that is specifically aimed at trying to rip off older Americans, whether it's a phony kind of insurance scam to sell insurance you don't need, or health care products that are that prey upon people's fears. Is this an issue that Grey Panthers is concerned with?
Well, a lot of the things that are advertised are trying to be sold to create a need. They don't fill a need. They create a need. So people see them time and time again, like with porcelana. You know, you've got ugly spots on your hands. Well, I talked to somebody. They said, "Well, I've had these spots for a long time, and I never thought they were ugly until I heard this." And I don't know how much good that stuff does, but sure, we're talking to that all the time and trying to get people to realize that these things are trying to rip you off. It's just like being ripped off. I could tell you stories in New York where people get ripped off on the streets, you know, and all these things. So.
Well, the elderly are particularly victims often.
Because they're older. You know, they look older and they think we're all vulnerable. They don't know that we're smart.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
My name is Maggie Fiegel, and I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I feel I'm very fortunate. I am a third ager. And I approach life. John F. Kennedy said when he was living, "What can I do for my country? Not what can my country do for me?" I find that as you give, you create a vacuum in your life. Something else new comes in. There are many things we can do out there. I do feel the coordinators of the third age centers could perhaps do more. I am fortunate. I work with a school district that is intergenerational. We go into schools and help with preschoolers. In Grand Rapids, we have Child Watch, where we watch for children on the street. Even the nursing homes watch for children. We do go in, we work on millages. We are constantly busy serving the public. We are fulfilled people. We are active. There are not enough hours in the day. I am a happy person. I am serving someone else. I want to thank you for the opportunity of having this program to send the word, the message out to other people that are in their rooms. And probably if each one of us would just pick one person, find through our senior neighbors or people one person who is hurting and go and help them, and then maybe they would help somebody else. But I think a lot of what's going on should come from our heart in our head instead of gimme. Thank you.
Maggie, before you let go of that microphone, would you explain what you mean by third age? I'm not sure everybody's familiar with that term.
Okay, I'm not a senior citizen. I belong to the Older Women's League. I have been approached to help the Grey Panthers. I just don't have many things to do. I'm also with the Tough Love movement, which is younger people. I'm a busy person. The first age is learning. The second age is earning. The third age is fulfilling, giving, enjoying. We are the most productive age there is. We are the largest segment of the generation here, of the population in the United States. We're growing faster than any other group. We have expertise. In biblical times, didn't they go to the sages and ask them for help? They didn't go ask the kid on the corner or the guy sitting up there in the office. They went to the sages, the older people. You got the idea of third age?
I think I've got it.
Okay, may I ask you a favor?
Sure.
Will you promote our cause? They have schools in France. This is spreading. Last week in our town of Grand Rapids, we had 2 days at the mall, third age celebration. We had dances. We had booths on information, attorneys, legal aid, doctors, eye doctors, foot doctors, all those people giving advice. We had dances and bands. We had a beautiful time. We were working together with all generations. Thank you.
I don't think you need my help at all, tell you the truth. Okay, let's go to the next question. There's one right behind Vicki. If you can get the microphone. Okay, this gentleman right here. Okay, yes, sir. We'll get to you next.
I'm Stan Reeves from Hawthorne at Leesburg in Florida. A number of years ago, Maggie Kuhn visited our community, and frankly, I was quite distressed by the image that she portrayed, at least to me, in that she seemed a little bit more liberal than I would like to see, and her thrust seemed to come across that we, the aged, were not getting our fair share. We were not getting enough of the things in the country that would do us. I was just wondering whether the thrust of the Great Panthers has changed. You're on the steering committee. It seems to me like we are getting our fair share, and we are ready to do more for the good of the country. What is your comment relative to that?
Well, I think as far as Social Security is concerned, we're just anxious to see that it's maintained. Not that it's more, only that with the living cost of living. I might say the Great Panthers are all different. We don't have one issue that we all have to agree on. We're all different. We're different people, and we're all pretty strong opinionated in some areas, and yet in other areas we are understanding and lenient. But I think that we are anxious to see that things are maintained. Now, at least this is I'm coming from my point of view now, that things are not taken away from us that we have. We'd like to see a national health service so that people can have free health care, because we feel that the health care is robbing a lot of people of their savings, and it's very poor. So I would say maintaining.
Okay, let's go to our next question. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Julia Hightower from Little Rock, and I wanted to introduce a slightly different theme here.
Okay.
One of the things that I've enjoyed in my association with my contemporaries is that they haven't lost their sense of humor. And back to this discussion of the TV program, I kind of understand your point of view about the older woman, but I think she was just kind of taking advantage of her infirmity and introducing a little bit of humor in that way. Just like I have a couple of friends who've had slight strokes, and if they are inclined to excuse their forgetfulness because they've had a stroke, I usually tell them, well, you and I both forget. You just have a better excuse than I do. Not that we forget any more than others. I also tell my grandchildren, you forget too. You forget as I do, only you forget your sweater, you forget to do your homework, and a few things like that. We forget different things, but we both forget.
I think that's probably good advice for any age, to keep the sense of humor intact. Yes, we have another question there, sir, or a comment, sir? Yeah.
I'm Dan Cummins from Little Rock, and I'm a past president of a group of AARP of 450 members, and we have a closed membership because we can't take any more. And at present, we have over 50 on the waiting list to get in our chapter. I'm also Secretary-Treasurer of our Golden K Kiwanis Club. We're all over 65 and retired, and we go to nursing homes and we stay busy. And my wife used to say to me, I used to see you got off at 5 o'clock. Now you're 8 to 9 o'clock every night getting home.
The independent sector has just done a study on volunteerism in America, and I think that the figures that they have come up with are really quite remarkable, where they suggested that the average American over at age 60 or over contributes at least 3 hours a week to some voluntary service or cause. I think that's quite a remarkable number. And do we have a question there? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Well, if you read your newspapers recently, or maybe all this year.
Can you tell us your name and where you're from?
Yes, I'm Luella Williams from Tucson, Arizona. Right. If you read your newspapers, and recently I understand, you will know that this is the 25th anniversary of the Peace Corps. And I went to the Peace Corps when I was 70 years old. Oh. I am now 85.
Well, I was a Peace Corps volunteer some 20 years ago as well, but not quite 85 yet. Okay, do we have a next question? Okay, could you tell us, if we can get the microphone back to that woman, I think it's a comment here that's worth making, and that is that when I joined the Peace Corps, I thought, like most Americans, that it was a group of young people out of college, but in fact, your experience was not a singular one. Lillian Carter, President Carter's mother, joined the Peace Corps at an elderly age. There are actually numbers of them, and they are great success stories for the most part. Did you find other elderly people in your group?
It was sort of the beginning of them finding out that older people had something to offer, and I was older when I entered than Lillian Carter was, and our newspapers in Tucson got told about it. They said when she died, she was the oldest. And a friend of mine wrote them in and wrote them and says, that isn't true, you have one here. And a reporter came to interview me, and then I had a long stretch in the newspaper.
What country did you serve in?
What?
What country did you serve in?
Botswana, Africa.
Well, then you were one of the pioneers who led the way for other older people, because the Peace Corps did find that the older Americans who served abroad actually had records of greater productivity and service than their younger counterparts, which was interesting.
They were just beginning to see that there was potential in the older. I was a teacher, and when I applied, they didn't even wait to write. They called me. A recruiter called me to say if I really wanted to go, here was an application. So I don't know whether anybody ever has trouble getting in or not. That's my experience.
Well, maybe you'll put an idea in somebody else's head here today. One of the things that we know about the C-SPAN network is that many of their members of their audience are older Americans who are at home, and maybe you'll inspire someone with a similar motive. The questions that we've been talking about today here, I think, have been very illuminating for me as an American citizen, and I think that the comments about the third age are something that are, I think, are particularly important to convey more knowledge of that this is perhaps the most productive time of your life, and it's a point that's not often made. Is this movement that she was talking about in Grand Rapids occurring throughout the country? Are there other examples?
I think it's a time now. We know that that age has more time, has knowledge, experience, expertise. They have all of these things to offer, and people are beginning to realize that now. And hopefully they're doing something to use these talents that they have. There's been retirement, mandatory retirement. They push people out when they were just ready to fly, you know. And this is one of the things Great Panther is doing. 70 is mandatory retirement, and there's a lot of people at 70 that are not ready to retire. So we're hoping that something is done so that people who want to work later, as long as they want to work and they're capable and able of working, they should be allowed to work. And this is one of the things that Grey Panthers are doing quite a bit about, the mandatory retirement.
Well, that's been one issue where you've been relatively successful, haven't you? Many states and corporations are pushing back those retirement
well, at 70,
policies.
it was pushed up to 70 from 65, and Grey Panthers had something to do with that. And Claude Pepper, of course, was very active and influential in having that changed. But it's still a mandatory retirement, and so we don't want any mandatory retirement. We don't want anything mandatory. We want people to do things that they're happy doing. If they want to live in Florida and they're happy doing whatever they're doing there, I think this is what they should be doing. I think that people, as long as they're living, as long as they're content, and feel that their life is productive and that it's fulfilling, I think that people should be allowed to do what is fulfilling to them.
Well, isn't the issue choice then? I mean, I think that's it. I mean, if people have worked for their lives, they should be able to choose whether they want to be in a community with other adults or integrated into the society as a whole. The future for Grey Panthers, I think that most of us heard about it and got to know what Grey Panthers was in the early and mid-70s, when there was a lot of media excitement about perhaps a radical adult group. Has it continued to grow? Do you look forward to continued growth?
The Panthers, of course, opened a lot of doors for us, and that was the reason that we liked it. But and a lot of people have felt, and I will have to say I'm guilty too, that if anything happened to Maggie Kuhn, who's a charismatic head of the Grey Panthers, I had the feeling, well, the Grey Panthers have served their purpose, and if anything happens to Maggie, maybe that's the end. 3 weeks ago, we had a symposium in Philadelphia where 30 Grey Panthers, this was people who have been in the movement and the most active in the movement from all over the country, participated. This symposium was on ageism. After that was over, I said Grey Panthers is going to live forever, because there are young people, there are middle-aged people, and they're all so anxious that this continue, and I'm sure that it's going to continue and be stronger than ever probably, with other people. Maggie now is 80 years old, and she hasn't been in the best of health, but she's still getting around. But we've all felt if anything happened to her that maybe Grey Panthers would be gone, but it won't. She has been able, and I think that is good leadership, when you can leave people that will carry on after you've gone, and I'm sure that that's going to be what's happening, and they're going to be very strong.
How many members do you have nationwide?
Well, we have about, they have a circulation. They have a national paper that comes out, a national paper called Network, and that goes to about, I think, about 80,000. So no, all of those people are not members. It changes all the time. So I wouldn't. We have about 168 networks. The average network has about maybe 50 or 60 people that are members.
Your headquarters is in New York?
The headquarters in Philadelphia. That's where Maggie's home is. The New York office is the media office. That's where I am. That's my office. And then we have the networks all over the country. And there's been interest in Germany. We've spoken in Germany. We've spoken in England, on BBC, and we are connected, or have some sort of a connection with the Age Concern in England. That's a group of older people. So that it's been an international interest.
We just have a few seconds left. Would you like to give us the address for Grey Panthers so people who are interested in more information can write to you?
Yes, the address in Philadelphia, the national office, they've just changed their office, so I know if this is right, is 113 Juniper Street. National Grey Panthers, 113 Juniper Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 10107. They've just changed their office, and so the other one I had learned perfectly. Now this one I need to practice.
Lydia Berger, I'm afraid we're out of time, but I'd like to thank you very much for taking part in this very illuminating hour with us. I'd also like to thank our participants on the Close-Up program for older Americans for your participation today. If you would like more information about Close-Up or our television shows, please stay tuned for our address and toll-free number. Thank you for being with us. I'm Chuck Tampio of the Close-Up Foundation in Washington.
This program was produced by the Close-Up Foundation in association with the Cable Satellite Public Affairs Network and is funded in part by grants from the DuPont Company and R.J. Reynolds Industries Incorporated.